All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Mentor Asia Pacific. I'm Alvin Sanga, and we're going to be interviewing a great mentor today. This is Franceska, and we'll have her tell her story, listen in, and we'll see what we comes up with. Okay, so first off, welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Right on. So share one thing that most people might not know about you.
Oh man, I think a lot of people don't know that. I don't know. A lot of people don't know a lot about me, but they think they do. And just that I'm not my social media, and that I'm not just yoga, and I'm not just certain things that people assume that I'm about. I'm a lot of different things that I'm really into, all at once. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you've kind of branched out. You've done a lot of different things.
Yeah, I've just been, ever since high school and before that, just trying to do different things, seeing what sticks, putting myself out there, and yeah.
Right on. So you said you're branching out. So let's talk about your story. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, growing up on Guam, I've always really been interested because of my family in like history and in culture, and just recently through my own like health issues, getting really into nutrition. And so a lot of what's shaped me into who I am is like I had a lot of eye-opening experiences in school regarding culture, regarding history, learning about like the real history of Guam, learning about our culture and how much the Chamoru people have endured. So a lot of that has shaped my worldview and what I want to learn and share about our island. So my story is really like just me discovering who I am, where I am, who my people are, and then having that form what I want to do in the world. So when I was little, I would just like be super proud of being Chamoru, and then something happened when I was like 12 where I went on this trip. I was 12, it was my first time ever away from my parents, and I went to Japan for this like Girl Scouts conference, and I went with 2 Haole people.
Okay.
And the only people at this conference that I connected with were other Chamoru girls from Tinian. And the whole time I was trying my hardest to make friends with these other people, and they were just like, no, like really not interested in me, who I was, or anything like that, and it really like shot my confidence. So from then on, like 8th grade on, I was like really lost and like not sure about my identity, not sure about not sure about who I was because of how other people treated me for who I was.
Okay.
And so I had to go through a lot of like learning and growing in high school, and then learning about the military buildup. The EIS came out when I was 17 or 16, and I was a junior in high school, and I had just gotten into creative writing with your coworker Keisha, who's all about decolonizing, all about encouraging our own stories as Chamoru people, as Pacific people, and us learning about our own Pacific literature and history stories, and then creating something based on that is unique to us and unique to our part of the world. So I did a lot of research, I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of like exposing myself, going to like the EIS meetings. I would go and like learn about the buildup, and just empowering myself with that kind of knowledge, and then realizing that was where I felt good about myself. I felt good about protecting our island, good about learning about what is threatening our island, and doing whatever I could, both for the environment, for the culture, from then on. And then when I moved to the States right after high school, that's when I was like the most lost. I wasn't sure I did a semester at GCC right after high school. A lot of my friends had gone off island, and a lot of my friends had joined the military. So it was like 2 different things, and there were only a handful of us that stayed. And so right after high school, I was trying to just go to school, do whatever I thought I wanted to do. I did graphic design for a little bit at GCC because I did it in high school, and I thought, okay, well, I already got into this vocation, so I might as well just keep going. And I just was like really unhappy, and my boyfriend at the time had moved off island, and he was in a weird place. We were both like in a really weird, like trying to date, but like totally just trying to be on our own, and it just wasn't happening. So I moved to the States when my auntie asked me to be an au pair for her kids, because she was a flight attendant, and her husband was going to police academy, and so she needed somebody in the family to watch her kids. So I was like, okay, if you're gonna pay for my ticket, I'll go. And so I just like took a leap and I left, and I had just started like really affirming my identity, and that's when I got pushed out into America.
Okay.
Like, I was like literally on my own. I felt like Cinderella for a little. Like I'm really grateful that she brought me out there. Like, but I was just 18. I was lost. I didn't have friends. I wasn't in school, and so for the next year, I spent that whole time just like hopping around, living with different family members, and really like indulging in the fact that I was young and that I was able to be supported by all these people. Like I'm so grateful that I was able to go and do that, even though I didn't go to school. Like most people would think like you just wasted your time.
Yep.
But I really didn't. I worked in a daycare and I realized that I liked to work with kids. I got to travel and I realized that I liked meeting other people from different cultures, and that it was always a great experience to be in a different place and then feel like you're at home. And that was something that I took with me to heart when I came back to Guam 2 years later. I realized that like one unique aspect about Guam and people from Guam is that we're really good at making people feel like they're at home.
Okay.
And that was something that we could tap into both in the marketing that we give out, and just something that is a strength that we have that you can't find all over the world. Like people hype up everywhere else besides here, you know, and we think that we need to leave in order to make our mark in the world, and that we need to leave to experience these things because there's nothing here.
Yep.
But when you do travel, that's when you realize, and it gives you perspective on where you're from. So I'm just rambling now.
No,
but
it's part of your story. You can
but
share.
yeah, a big part of my story was going out, experiencing. I went to Europe. I went all of both East Coast, West Coast, in the States, a little bit of Asia on my own. And when I came back home, that's when I was like, I'm ready now.
Yep.
Like I'm ready now to do what I'm meant to do here. Yeah.
Okay, so you talked a little about traveling. So, you know, a lot of people have this idea about traveling that it's just about going to see places.
Yeah.
So I know, and we can share to this, that, you know, traveling is not about seeing these places.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your travels and what do you think you learned? What stigma is there about, you know, coming from Guam? Talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, so traveling around, I was really excited to be seen in those places. Like right when I left high school, that's when like Instagram was just taking off, and all I wanted to do was like be in nice photos in nice places. And behind the scenes, I was miserable for so much of it. Like my first road trip in the States was with my, like bless them, they were so great. I love my ex's family, they were so nice. They took me around like on a really nice road trip, but my relationship with him at the time was just like terrible. And I had really beautiful photos, but nothing behind the scenes was like anywhere near as great as the photos were. And then once we broke up, I went to Europe, and I was just like totally free with I went around with my cousin, and we were like broke as shit. Like I had $300 for 3 weeks in Europe.
Wow.
It was like such a mess. But I was lucky because I was staying with my family, and traveling around is not as expensive as you think. I had a buddy pass. Like it was just like the most privileged point of my life, but I was so broke. And I realized that you don't need a lot of money. That was one thing. And that you don't need to have like a storybook relationship to go out and have a great time traveling. You don't need to have everything planned out. I was like on the internet for weeks before, like where should I go? What should I wear? What's the weather like? Am I gonna get picked? Like I read every blog there was, but like nothing will prepare you. You'll never be prepared, so you might as well just do it.
For sure.
And then the last thing is that the relationships you make when you travel is really what makes the experience. Like I never wanted to be a tourist. There was like a day that I went out with my sister and her husband, and they just got there, and they walked around with like the hats and the cameras, and like they really looked like tourists. They were calling things by the wrong name, making it like talking in the accent of the place, and I was just like, oh my god. Like it was great spending time with her, but I was just like, I don't want to be a tourist. And that's when I realized that too. I was 19. I was like, it's not about being seen in a place, it's about making connections wherever you are. That really makes it worthwhile going to these places. Like, and having that mindset that you're here not to just take a picture, to occupy space in these places. It's to make really like human connections everywhere in the world. That's possible if you just open yourself up to it. So
definitely agree with that idea about traveling, that it's not about the place. That's why people say it's not about the place, it's about the destination and like the travel that you go around. So yeah, that's a good talking point. But you talked a little bit about behind the scenes that it wasn't always as great as the pictures.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of that editing that goes, both internal and external.
Yeah.
And so
You're projecting.
We're never ourselves. We're kind of an extension. We're growth.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that growth, or what struggles you went through. Like, what were the bad times that helped you grow?
Man. So I'm really lucky that my bad times were really not that bad. Like, I'll recognize all my privilege. My parents take care of me, whatever. But in high school, I had my first boyfriend, my first love, that kind of situation. And when that kind of fell apart, we were both in denial, but trying to make it work. And I was heartbroken in an on and off relationship for like over a year. Like, get back together, it's great, and then it just falls apart and I feel like shit. And I would always blame myself. I'd always look for all the flaws in the situation. There wasn't a lot of communication, and it wasn't me per se, but I really got in a dark place and really felt kind of lost without that relationship for a little bit. So I had to do a lot of like self-love. Self-love really became a huge part of my life right after high school because I needed it. I couldn't rely on anybody else to give me happiness, and that was something that I had to learn for myself, because that's not something we're taught when we're little at all. Like, about relationships when they fall apart, how to take care of yourself, how to make sure that you're happy and your needs are met, so that you're not a burden on somebody else. And so I really felt that it was pressure, but it was also motivating, and it was great because it brought me to yoga. I joined a gym my first semester of college, and I didn't know what to do, so I just went and I took classes. I was never athletic before that. I tried surfing a little bit, but nothing ever stuck. That was my thing, especially with social activities. I never did dance, I never did music, I never really stuck to anything. So then when I found yoga, and I was at my lowest point, I went to a class, and I loved it because I could just walk in, be there, be in my thoughts, and focus on myself and making myself feel good for an hour. And I've never experienced that before yoga. And there was one class where I went, and at the end of the class, he had us do Shavasana, which is the last pose where you just lie on your mat and you just relax. And he was like, the teacher was leading us through guided meditation. He was like, I want you to imagine everything in your life that's holding you down, everything that's making you hurt. Squeeze it in your hands. Hold it in your mind and squeeze it in your hands. And then take a deep breath and let it out. Let it go. And I felt like a weight come off of me. And I realized at that exact moment that I need to do this. I need to do this. I don't know where this has been my whole life, but I found it right after high school, thanks to that lowest point. Yeah.
All right. So yoga is your way out, guys. Yoga. Think about yoga. I do a little self-meditation. I haven't dabbled into yoga yet, but we'll see. Maybe after today. I'll take a look at it.
Yoga is just moving meditation. It was originally derived so that your body is in the right place so that you can meditate. So it goes hand in hand. There's 8 limbs of yoga. Meditation and breathing is all more important. It's not more important, but it's all part of it. It's all connected. Yeah. The asanas, the moving postures aren't as important as the meditation. And that's another thing I learned too, is that it's not about the aesthetics.
It's not the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Good. People need to know that too. Okay. So you talked a little bit about you fell into this yoga world, and I'm gonna guess that you found a mentor for this.
Yeah.
So we are kind of the sum of our mentors, is what I kind of take a look at. Anybody who's good or bad mentors, we are the sum of that. So talk to me about who were your most influential mentors and how did they inspire you?
My yoga teacher is definitely my most influential mentor thus far, because when I first started yoga, I would just go to different classes, different people, and the practice was great, but I never had a teacher that really took me under their wing until 3 years into my practice, when I moved back home for the first time. I lived in the States, and I worked at a yoga studio for almost a year, and that's how I was doing my practice. But even there, I didn't really get an enriching experience. But I did find when I got home, my teacher, her name was Lisa Marie Myers, and she lived here for 3 years, and we both moved to Guam around the same time. So she was looking for friends, and she's just super outgoing, super loud. her classes were always really, really funny and lighthearted, and that's why I loved about her. So I just kept coming back, and then she kept challenging me every time I came back. And that was the first time I noticed a teacher ever do that, because there was a lot of yoga classes where they just like they have the routine and you follow them, but she was like really, really hands-on. She would always force me to do things that I thought I wasn't ready for, and just like push me and made me grow. And the 2 years that we spent together, I would just go to her classes, and she would invite me to her next class. So in the morning I would go at 6 a.m. and then she would be like, come at 8 a.m. So I would follow her, change, go to her second class, and then we would like go eat breakfast or something together. And she was also the one that taught me how to teach step yoga. So within like the course of a year, I had done like hundreds of classes with her, just because she kept inviting me. And she knew I liked yoga, and she knew that I had it in my body, so she was like, when are you ready to teach? And that was like such an amazing moment for me, because I've never really been the kind to put myself out there. I just kind of like sit back and do what I would like to do, and I never really like try to push beyond too much. And I always wanted to teach, but I didn't think I would be doing it so soon. But because she asked me and she told me, you're ready, that's what made me decide to do it. Like I was always too respectful of the practice and too respectful of my future students to like just jump into it without really knowing. But she was like, you have to. That's the only way.
So that push.
And she really, really pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like talking to people and narrating a class is so hard. Like my first couple of classes, I would like get my left, right, up, down, everything wrong. And just figuring out what to do next it would make me freeze, but she just kept pushing me. You can do it. You know what you're gonna do. You know what you want to do. Just say it. It's getting it out of your mouth. And she really helped me grow in that way, and I owe so much to her.
That's good. That's great.
I wouldn't be doing anything I am right now without her.
So mentors are a big thing. So she talked about one. Okay, so usually this is where I go into the advice question, and you give your advice to yourself. But it looks like you've kind of self-talked your way into being this person that you are today. So I kind of want to bring this back to kind of the youth of Guam. And, there might be a student sitting out there that's thinking about, their identity, thinking about the island of Guam and how it ties into them today. So if you were to give those students advice about how to look for their self-identity, how to, move forward in a world that, being Chamoru is, I guess, a little difficult space where, they don't know their full identity. What journey or what idea could you give them to move forward?
I would just say to start with yourself. Start by asking yourself questions, talking to yourself, listening to yourself, because your body knows things that you don't, your heart knows things that you don't know for sure yet, and to just always be looking around for those signs like, am I happy? Am I productive? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I feel like I should be doing? You should just always be asking those questions, and don't make it so much about like, am I showing other people that I'm doing great? Do I look like this? Just think about how you feel first and foremost, and if you feel like what you're doing is right, then you're on a good path. And then just to work in like circles outside of that. So you start with yourself, and you start with doing what is best for you, so that you can be good for your family, and so that you can be supportive for the people around you that also support you. And it's that concept of inafamalik, to just make good for the greater good, and that's how you get taken care of. And then beyond that, like, what am I doing in my job and in my life? Am I saying things? Am I projecting a message out to more people that will make the whole community better? So for me, it starts with being conscious of my diet and being good to my body and good to myself. And then I can be good for my family, introduce them to healthier foods, help my mom and dad when they need help, help my sisters out when they need help, my nana, whoever needs me. And then beyond that, like, what am I doing for my community? So, like, promoting something. I use my social media kind of as a platform, because I do have people that respond to me and send me messages, and it's really nice, and it's nice to know that I'm inspiring people to make changes that are good for our island. So, like, picking up trash, recycling when I can, being conscious about my waste, things like that, because everything we do affects everything around us, and the only way you're going to change the world is if you change yourself.
Think about changing yourself, and the world will take care of itself if you do your own. All right, we're gonna thank Franceska for being on the show today. Once again, I'm Alvin Sanga. This has been a great episode for Mentor Asia Pacific. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks guys for tuning into Mentor Asia Pacific. Once again, I'm Alvin Sanga. Check out all our social media that's going to be linked down below. Stay tuned, more mentors are to come. We're going to be releasing a mentor every week. And please leave a comment down below for any mentors that you'd like to be featured on the channel, any business professional, entrepreneur, or anybody that you believe is inspiring and can provide to be a mentor for the youth as well. Until next time, thank you very much. Sanga out.